we go, everyone. This is Formula One. Incredible! What a move! And he's done it!
Some moments I will never ever forget.
Lando Norris successfully converts pole position to victory at the Dutch Grand Prix, as the pole sitter has done in the last 5 years before this one. But you know what? That does not tell you even a tenth of the story that has unfolded in this final chapter here at Circuit Zandvoort. Yes, Norris wins the Dutch Grand Prix, but so much happened. And the contrasting emotions for teammates will tell another tale in itself. Kimi Antonelli, P2, George Russell, P3. Let's get into all of it here on your post-race show. Welcome down to F1 TV's desk. Welcome to the paddock. Welcome to Jolyon Palmer and Alex Brundle. Alex, Lando Norris takes victory. He doesn't do it entirely lights to flag. It's not an entirely straightforward victory, but a win nonetheless, making that hard tyre work in a way that few others could. How impressed were you with that performance?
Not straightforward. You can say that again. That was a complex race. I think there were two moments for Lando. First, how brave he was when he and Antonelli came up to the back of Lewis Hamilton. Great move there, actually. Got him the lead on the road in real terms. And then, as you mentioned, he managed to make the hard tyre work in the middle stint, something that Piastri couldn't do, something that Russell struggled with, and Lando had great pace through that phase.
Jolyon, I know you've been talking and talking in commentary, doing real-time maths, mental arithmetics, all sorts, to get your head around all that was happening and unfolding in that race.
It was busy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Extra pit stops we weren't expecting, extra formation laps we weren't expecting, another race start. But a class of one. Norris is so good at the moment, and it's actually week on week. He just keeps putting it together. You see the gap actually between Lando and Oscar. It shows the job that Lando's doing to extract everything out of the McLaren. I thought the defining moment was going to be the race start, where Kimi jumps ahead, but he was a tiger in the middle stint as well. The way that he's, having big snaps right half a second back in dirty air, and then being really annoyed at himself because he knows that he needs it. So he's pushing to the limit, over the limit, but he's desperate for the win. And eventually, like Budapest, the pace outed, and he came through to have an easy last dozen laps.
Right, bear with me. This time last season, Max Verstappen was 104 points behind Oscar Piastri and ultimately Lando Norris, who was world champion. He managed to get those 104 points over Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris is 83 points behind Kimi Antonelli. Do you see where I'm going with this one? Is he out of it?
I'm on that thread.
I know that the unreliability for McLaren, you feel they will regret deeply as this season deepens if Lando Norris remains in the form he's currently in.
Well, I don't know if they should, because actually Antonelli's lost more points for poor reliability than Norris. So, they can beat themselves up. Obviously, they had the DNS, the double DNS in China. Oscar already had his moment. There was a driver-induced one in Melbourne. They had Monaco, Lando missed points, Canada, they missed points, but none of them were going to be wins. Whereas you look at Kimi and you see Silverstone was a win, gone. And what was the other one? Barcelona, second place, gone. So that's actually more points. But you can see the way back's just slightly for Lando. Though it's the way that he's winning as well that I think is really impressive. They've obviously brought upgrades. Different circuits, but of a kind of similar-ish genre. The Hungaroring and here.
Yeah.
I will be fascinated to see if they can have this form at Monza, which should be more of a Mercedes track with their straight line speed. But then again, Kimi's got a grid penalty confirmed for Monza as well.
Yeah, what a test Monza will be. On Lando Norris, do you feel he's one of the strongest drivers of the year so far, but perhaps not able to truly show it because McLaren didn't hit the ground running in the way Mercedes did? They had the unreliability.
It definitely is in this phase of the year. You've got to remember, though, we're off the back of McLaren's step in terms of the development race. We've seen this throughout the year so far. There was an upgrade set in Hungary. There's been another upgrade set here. That being said, I think Lando roundly outperformed Piastri today. He's been so impressive in this phase. And I think championship points are more fluid this year than they were last year. In 2025, you know, leading runners weren't losing a potential 25 points to a gearbox issue or an engine issue because the cars were more developed than they are in this era. So actually, you know, in points being the same distance, I think is closer in 2026. We're seeing more gains and losses through the year.
How nervous do you think Mercedes will be to bring some upgrades to start this development race? Because McLaren have taken a step, there's no doubt. Yes, the true test comes in Monza and Baku and interacts with different characteristics, but two wins on the bounce for Lando Norris.
Yeah, inevitably the field was going to close up from Melbourne, and it has done with Ferrari, with McLaren, with Red Bull as well, bringing upgrades. Mercedes hit back, didn't they, in Canada, where they moved again further away from the field. That was their only real big hit of upgrades. So I'm hearing Baku is going to be their big chance. Obviously, Monza's such an outlier of a circuit that might suit them. Then we go to Madrid, which is a complete unknown for everybody. So Baku's the one that they've targeted. I don't think they're going to be, you know, losing sleep over Lando right now. I do think it seems like he's too far away. And when you look at Kimi still putting in the performances very consistently, yeah, I would say it's such a long shot for Norris. But for me, I think you could argue he's the driver of the season. He's put in so many top drives, and now he has the car that he didn't have earlier on, and he's just smashing out the wins.
You've got to say, though, we're coming off a pair of circuits that are less energetically starved in the way that we saw Mercedes sort of dominate at Silverstone, you know, and be really strong at Spa. There are going to be those circuits coming, and that effect hasn't gone away. It's going to be interesting to see how this McLaren form, for example, rolls on into Monza. If it's the same there, then I think Merc have got a problem on their hands.
Okay, I think we've now got some reaction coming in from McLaren team boss. Obviously, joy on Lando Norris's side of the garage, not so on Oscar Piastri's. Let's hear from Andrea Stella in the pit lane with Ariana Bravo.
Andrea, congratulations on that victory. Back-to-back victories for Lando Norris, and my goodness, he really put on a show there. It was really strong performance. That must be very promising in terms of the direction that the team's heading.
Yeah, promising for the future, but above all, I would say in the present and enjoy this victory, confirming the progress that we made in Hungary. I have to say here it wasn't as obvious because the sprint race, it wasn't our stronger race pace. I think Ferrari, they were faster than us in the sprint race. Mercedes definitely very competitive, so we needed to improve the pace, we needed to improve the car, we needed to improve the driving, and I think the team and the drivers did it. So for Lando in particular, a deserved victory, and a victory that definitely is encouraging for the future, as you say.
It seems that you were really able to unlock something between the sprint yesterday and qualifying and then into today. Does that give you confidence that looking ahead, you're going to be able to apply the pressure more in the championship battles?
Yeah, I think first of all, you are right. There were a few things from a setup point of view that we tweaked, and I think they paid off nicely. But if we look at the next race, for instance, is Monza, which is a completely different demand in terms of car performance. If we instead consider Hungary and Zandvoort, they are much closer together, maximum downforce, dominated by the speed in the corners rather than the speed in the straights. So I would be a little bit careful to say that all this extends into Monza, but definitely we go to the next race with some encouragement, and we will try and do our best. We definitely have an exciting Formula One, and hopefully we will be able to keep the championship alive and have an exciting championship.
Well, we certainly hope so. Congratulations once again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Careful optimism, I think that's fair to say from Andrea Stella there, but things do look on the up for McLaren, certainly on Lando Norris's side of the garage. We'll get into all of that, indeed, in what happened to Oscar Piastri in that race as well, but let's firstly see the race highlights.
Welcome, my friends, to Zandvoort's last dance. We're underway with a crawl off the line for George Russell, trying to block Piastri. He does so. Championship leader, upper place. George Russell did not get off the line well. It is very tight in the background. Lando Norris leads. Can Antonelli? Oh, big crash. The home hero into the wall and out of the race.
it was closing with Gabby. Almost T-bone him.
I know, I was watching. Yeah, good job there.
Let's go racing once again. Kimi Antonelli off the line, putting pressure on Lando Norris. Antonelli to the inside. Antonelli close with Norris. Antonelli through. Getting close through the sweepers. Brilliant commitment. What a move. Welcome back to Formula One, Yuki Tsunoda. In comes Lando Norris with a real chance of winning the Dutch Grand Prix. Lando Norris around the outside, and Lando Norris is going to go through. In Budapest, it was special, but that is the lead for Lando Norris.
We will invert cars this lap, if it's in turn 1.
Lando Norris brilliantly wins the Dutch Grand Prix.
Woo. Well done, mate. Very well done.
Gorgeous. Well executed, good strategy. Won me the race today, so thank you guys.
Firstly, I think from that we can say we're very glad to see that Max Verstappen is okay, and indeed all the drivers behind that crash as well. What reactions to make sure everyone is safe. We'll come on to that in a bit. Secondly, invert the cars. That team order from Mercedes between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, 2 drivers vying to make history, to fulfill a childhood dream and to win a first world title. That was the order. Russell did take those orders and he swapped positions. What of it then? Let's hear first from Toto Wolff.
So congratulations on the double podium. Just start with an overview of what you've taken away from this weekend.
Oh yeah, it was good and tough at times. I think today we thought we had the pace to win the race and had run away when we went onto the hard tire. And we don't understand why. But when you look at it from the bittersweet side, we finished with a P2 and P3. We outscored Ferrari in points, so that is okay.
Can we talk about the strategy decision to invert the cars? We heard George Russell questioning it, whether Kimi was still going for the win. Kimi even saying on the radio that it was tricky strategy-wise. Can you just talk us through the thought process of that? Were you willing to risk the double podium for Kimi to be ahead and get the points?
No, I think this is, the policy that we always have, and we discussed it many times, and also in the morning. We're not losing time with each other and having Ferraris breathing down our neck. And especially that before the inverting, Kimi was ahead. He didn't need to. He didn't need to pit. So George ended where he ended, with the threat of the Ferraris obviously ahead. So the switch was the logical consequence.
And when you look ahead to the races to come, thoughts on those?
I don't know. It's a development fight, and at the moment we are a bit stuck. We need to just keep on performing and executing well, because the upgrades are still a little bit away.
Thank you, Toto. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Okay then, question to the 2 racing drivers alongside me. Would you have swapped position if you were in George Russell's shoes, seeing that the gap ahead to Lando Norris was so big and growing?
I think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to. Kimi's ahead of you before he pits for the soft tyre. And you know that you've got both the Ferraris coming up the road at the pair of you. You don't need a 4-way battle over second position. If they had have fought, there's a pretty good chance there that George would have ended up off the podium, which he didn't. He did a fantastic job eventually to defend against the Ferraris, and I actually think that letting Kimi through when he did is a factor in where he ended up. From the team's perspective, I think that's absolutely the right call. I did wonder if they'd leave Kimi a second up the road from George to help him out with the overtake. But the question remains here in Zandvoort, where the energy is not really the game, whether the overtake would have actually helped that much, or whether Kimi would have just been dishing out dirty air onto the front wing of George and making his job even more difficult.
Jolyon?
I mean, I agree. I don't think it's that big a story. I think Toto's right. Kimi was ahead. They needn't have pitted him, but they did as a sort of fail-safe, so it wasn't any sort of big scandal. They pitted him because they knew that they had George there that would probably give the place up. If they didn't think George would give the place up, they wouldn't have pitted him, and then they'd still be second and third. And I agree, if George wants to hang on and they get all aggressive with each other, they are probably going to scupper both of their races. And if one of them is going to be more scuppered, it'll be George on the shod tyres, who will be more likely to be passed by Lewis. So I think everything that played out made sense. I think George defended actually brilliantly to keep third. I think that was perfect car placement against Lewis, who had much fresher tyres. And yeah, I don't think there's a big story there.
You were hoping for a disagreement there.
No. I wanted your opinions. I think the fact that George was able to defend so successfully, though, and didn't fall down to P4 and P5, I think if that had happened, maybe this conversation would be different. We'd certainly have an angrier George Russell on our hands than you saw in Parc Fermé.
But you know, the same logic would have applied with a different result. But I can see the logic of Mercedes. I think George will probably see it. He's going to be a bit annoyed. He's had a tough day. The starts were obviously really difficult. Dropped behind Oscar right at the second getaway, and that put the distance between him and the top two. But he doesn't really have the pace today in the end. I'm happy he's had a better weekend, but he's still not there. And if we're talking about drivers of the season, I mean, Kimi, once again, has just executed really well. Not quite a win today, but every weekend he's also amazing. So the pressure's on George, and I think when the dust settles, he'll say, actually, I wasn't quite there today for whatever reason, particularly the starts, and I still have a bit of work to do. Yeah,
Kimi just mopping up the pressure at every opportunity he is given. Jolien, final question to you, because we're going to let you go. To catch a flight, where do Mercedes go from here then? Where does George Russell go from here? Where does Kimi go from here? How do they balance these two driver ambitions?
I think Monza will be fascinating because Kimi has the grid drop. George doesn't. So that is such a good opportunity for George to take a bit of confidence from this one and go and win at Monza, where they should be the favourites because of the straight line speed. And then we'll see how it rejigs. It's also Kimi's home race. Title pressures, home race pressures, will they or won't they exist for him? And Mercedes, I still think they've got the legs. You know, as Toto said, they thought they could have won this race. The hard tyres that got away, but it's pretty close. And Lando has to win everything if he's gonna overcome them. They still beat both Ferraris. Mercedes, they're fine.
Yeah, they should be happy from today. All right, Jolien, well, thank you very much. Excellent work in commentary and here with us on the desk as well. Don't go anywhere, Alex, and neither to you guys as well. We'll be back in just a moment with more reaction.
Let's start with some reaction to the drivers' standing, shall we? Let's have a look how it all stands. Kimi Antonelli ahead of George Russell now. Russell up to second on count back. He's level with Lewis Hamilton, 183. Norris on 159, 2 great wins. Wonder if he can carry that forward on. Leclerc, Verstappen, Piastri, Hadjar, Lawson, and a couple of points this weekend for Pierre Gasly. Let's journey to the second page, which begins with Arvid Lindblad. Not a great day for him. Then it's Colapinto, Behrman, Borgletto, and second point score of the season for Hulkenberg. Then Sainz, Albon, Ocon, second point score of the season for Alonso. There in 19th. Yuki Tsunoda's 20th in the standings, after his one appearance of the season. And then it's Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, and Sergio Perez. To the constructors, much the same picture, with Mercedes on 425, Ferrari on 338, and then it's McLaren, Red Bull, Racing Bulls and Alpine separated by 3, Haas being closed in on by Audi, and then it's Williams, Aston up to 3, and Cadillac. Wow, what a great spectacle Zandvoort has been, and we will miss that view between the dunes and the salty air. Goodbye for now.
And welcome back down to the paddock, and to all of us here in Zandvoort. We thank you, Zandvoort, because it has been a brilliant few years of racing here, and even though it's a track where it's hard to overtake, it never fails to deliver, does it, Alex Brundle? It did so today as well, a complicated race. I always sort of half judge a race on how busy my notes are, and I can tell you I was running out of room and it's all over the place and I can barely read it. So there you go. On to Ferrari. Yeah, you've even got some notes down as well. Ferrari then. How do you think they'll be feeling? How will they assess today? Is there anything left on the table for them?
Yeah, I think strategically there was a little bit. I mean, they didn't really perform with Leclerc on the medium compound tyre. They were potentially slightly tardy in letting Lewis through on that tyre, or pitting Leclerc out of the way of Lewis. And when you look at how close they were eventually to attacking Mercedes, they took the option very well, I think, at the end for the VSC to put both cars on the soft compound tyre. But yeah, I think that they'll consider that they might have got at least one of the cars on the podium today.
Yeah, perhaps. P4 for Lewis Hamilton, ultimately chasing down George Russell. P5 for Charles Leclerc, and that battle brought Leclerc back into it as well. Lewis Hamilton, I don't think we've heard him quite so animated, shall we say, on the team radio, asking if the team were using him as a guinea pig and hanging him out there, saying, you've got the data, you should know which tyre to put me on. I've lost all this time. Good job, guys. Sarcasm all over the place. What is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, that would upset me from inside the car as well, because you're looking at the team asking you which tyre you want to be put on. They've already seen a stint on the medium compound from Leclerc. They're sitting there with all of the data, and effectively you've got an engineer on the pit wall hedging their bets based around what the driver is going to say. I mean, of course, Lewis has sat in the briefings, Lewis has felt the tyres, he's the only person sitting in the car. But I think his response there, actually, amidst a slightly turbulent day where he did sound slightly upset over the radio in general, but I think his response to that particular one was entirely justified. He's got a sniff of a championship, hasn't he, Lewis Hamilton? And he knows that with the pace of the Mercedes as it's been so far this year, and with the pace of them at a circuit like Monza, like Baku coming up, just like with McLaren, everything's going to have to be right, and he's going to have to stack cards in his own favour if he is going to deliver an eighth. And I think that that's where that kind of intensity in this sort of race is coming from. Also, a man who has said at the beginning of this weekend, I spent most of my summer break training to be in the best position I can be in to attack this championship, and there he is with the frustrating outcomes.
He is hungry, isn't he? There's no doubt about it. You can see in the way that he is hustling that car and has been all season. Right, then he slipped to P3 in the driver's standings. But let's hear from Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis, it was great to see that you had the pace today to fight for a podium, and I didn't quite get it at the end. So what's the overarching kind of emotion? Because you almost had it, did you? Almost.
Yeah, I gave it absolutely everything today, and I tell you, it's so close at the top. Really hard battling. But I moved forwards. I think qualifying needed to be a bit better, but Mercedes are gaining like 0.4 a second just on the straight, so that's really hard to capture everywhere else. It just shows we've got a really good car, and if we can somehow improve our power unit and get a bit closer to them, which I trust in the team that we're working as hard as they can to do so, hopefully we can be even closer and even more in the mix between those guys.
I could really feel how much you wanted it on team radio today. I don't think I've heard you that frustrated. Does that just show how competitive it is? You want these kind of decisions results hang on those decisions?
I want to win. I'm here to win, and it is difficult when you see, when you're looking ahead and you see the two Mercedes drivers, they get the call and it's done, and they execute straight away. They let Kimi by and let him get on with the race, and I was on a different strategy, and it's not the same here, and that's a little bit difficult, but we just have to take it. We'll take it offline, and when I go back now, I'll speak to them about it.
Thanks, Lewis.
P4 then for Lewis Hamilton, P3 in the world standings. More to come from Ferrari and more to come from here on the desk as well. We'll look at Max Verstappen's crash in just a mo. Now, a little teaser for all of you on F1 TV. On the latest episode of F1 Beyond the Grid podcast, Damon Hill remembers his World Championship win 30 years on.
It's very depressing when you've been beaten and you're not getting the results you want. It can be quite a downer. So I was pretty down after 95 because I basically had my backside whipped by Michael Schumacher and my nose rubbed in it and all the rest of it, and I didn't like it. It was humiliating. I really thought 95, from 94, having come close to winning the title, I thought 95, this is it. I'm gonna have come a close second, but unfortunately he did for me in 95, and I emotionally, psychologically had a big dent. But in 90 over the winter, I knew that I had 96 as a great opportunity to maybe win a title. So I had to get myself together. And one of the ways you do that is you have to let go of whatever has passed. And of course, hope springs eternal. And if you've got a car that is going to be good and got a chance of winning, then that's all you think about. You start to think about the future. You start thinking about what's to come. But if you've got a weakness, if you've got a flaw, you need to address that.
And you can watch the full episode on the F1 YouTube channel and the session highlights, or listen along on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Welcome back here to the paddock, nestled in the sand dunes of Zandvoort for one last time here on your post-race show. Now, the home crowds here were pumped all day. Max Verstappen was ringing out from about 8 a.m. today, but not to be for home hero. How gutting, how scary to see such a big crash at turn 14 for Max Verstappen. Drivers behind taking unbelievable evading action to make sure that everybody came home safe and sound. He sounded absolutely desperate on the radio, saying how sorry he was to the team. We're so glad he is okay after this one. Side and front impact there. And just trudging back towards the paddock. Let's hear from him, shall we? Max Verstappen then, here on home soil, but crashing out so early on in the race.
Hey Max, obviously firstly it looked like a big hit, so how are you feeling right now?
Good. I think I still hit the safer barrier maybe, potentially, but I think also a more frontal impact is actually a bit better than a sideways one, so from that sense, all okay.
What's the overriding emotion? Obviously difficult to have a result like this at your last home race.
This weekend, of course, disappointing. I think disappointing pace, disappointing end to the weekend. I think you can sum it up like that.
Right, thanks Max.
Disappointing pretty much sums it up, and he wasn't a man of many words in there, and you can completely understand. It's been a huge weekend for him. He's committed his future to Red Bull through to 2030 on his final ever home Grand Prix, and then out in the manner he was. And it's so rare to see a mistake, a moment, an error for Max Verstappen like that, isn't it? I know they were greasy conditions, but we know he's a master in the wet.
I mean, throw it back to the start of the Grand Prix here last year, where he gathered up a monumental moment in turn 2. We know how aggressive that he is at the start of the race. And, you know, even a driver with the incredible skill that Max Verstappen has sometimes makes an error. That really difficult conditions. These cars have a huge amount of instant torque. They had to be on slick tyres because most of the rest of the circuit was wet. Just got low on the curb and found himself with the wall. Nasty impact. So it was good to see him jump straight out.
Yeah, it really was. And as I've said, all the cars behind as well to avoid him. You saw Gasly with reactions like a cat. Bortoletto with the spin behind as well. And Hulkenberg, I don't know how he went the right way to get out of that one. Brilliant stuff. It does remind you how incredible these racing drivers truly are. Liam Lawson in the Red Bull garage for this weekend, of course, with Isaac Hadjar out with a wrist injury. We don't know yet whether Isaac Hadjar will be back in the car for Monza. We'll keep you updated on that one. But Lawson with a solid P7. And do you know what? Yuki Tsunoda. Yes, P11 just outside the points, but I think he'd have loved that one. What an overtake on Lindblad he did as well. How significant is that? Let's hear from those two drivers, shall we? Here are the Racing Bulls guys.
Yuki, I thought you were going to score today. You drove so well. Just how frustrating is it to just miss out by that one spot?
Yeah, I mean, I did as much as I can, and I definitely enjoyed enjoy the race today. Obviously, it was a shame that I'm missing the points very closely. But yeah, overall, it was pretty fun. Had overtaking. That's what I, miss a lot. And yeah, thanks for the team to help me to get up to speed like this fast. And yeah, with unforgettable memories in 2026 so far.
You obviously had a strong weekend all the way through. Just how much do you hope that you've still got a chance to get on the grid next year for 27?
I hope. I think I did as much. I did things as much as I can, honestly. You know, with one race, jumping into this car, with knowing anything. So yeah, I mean, it would be so much better if I score points, but you know, being able to fight against them in the strong midfield, and I think you know, being close to the points, I take it.
Well, we hope to see you back. Thank you. Oh, but it feels like such a shame because you were so fast out there and obviously didn't get the final result that you wanted. It was kind of undone from that very beginning, wasn't it? And that yellow flag moment. Talk me through that that unfolding from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, Max lost it. Then he came across the track and there was debris everywhere. I couldn't really see anything. I just tried to avoid making contact with, I think I almost hit his tyre. And then I was just holding my line and trying to just go straight to, you know, not have any incidents or anything. And then I passed Pierre in turn 1. But I didn't see any flags or anything, so I think it was a bit of a shame. I also think the penalty is it's a bit harsh. I think we can all be honest. It took me out of the race, basically. It was quite extreme for such an incident, but fine, it is what it is. But yeah, it's just a shame because I think the pace was really good. The race, honestly, from after that onwards, I'm actually quite proud of. I think it's probably one of my best races in Formula One. From a pace point of view, I think my commitment in the overtakes, I tried to help the team where I could, which was, yeah, quite something. Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame because actually I'm quite proud of the job I and the team did. I think there's a few things we can do better, but we were taking out the race on lap 3, so yeah, is what it is.
I appreciate it's probably a bit early to want to focus on more of the positives, but this is a really good race for you from a performance perspective. That gives you a lot of confidence into the next one in Monza.
Yeah, I think, you know, from my side, I think it wasn't the easiest. You know, I don't think starting the weekend we weren't as competitive as we have been. But, you know, with myself getting more up to speed with the track, with the team, you know, making some changes, I think we really did have a very competitive car in this, you know, proper part of the weekend, you know, the normal format, not the sprint part. And it's just a shame that we weren't able to take away any points because I have absolutely zero doubt that without the penalty, it would have been P8 today.
Right, thanks, Arvid.
That is a frustrated Arvid Lindblad, and you understand the frustration because he was here in great form, performing super well. But that penalty, I mean, it cost him ultimately any points-paying position, didn't it? A drive-through for a yellow flag infringement at that crash. But how difficult would it have been to see what was going on in the melee?
I think it is harsh. I mean, the accepted sort of way to go about it as a driver is if you're effectively avoiding the crash, you avoid the crash, and you do everything that you can to make sure that you don't become part of the accident. It's difficult to then say, you know, add in extra things that the drivers have to be aware of during an incident to make sure that they don't then pass a car. Secondarily to that, depends how far you are away from the incident, but if you haven't actually passed a yellow flag and if you're actually trying to get around the incident, I think it's harsh then to penalise you for passing another driver while you're actually taking evasive action.
Same for Franco Colapinto as well. He got a further 10 seconds as well as the drive-through, as did Lawson for further yellow flag infringements. And then Carlos Sainz, 10-second penalty for the contact with his teammate Alex Albon. The duo signing contracts to extend their time at Williams. And then this, Alex.
But these two have been talking about this. I mean, obviously it's not great. There's only really one rule when you leave the pit lane, which is don't hit your teammate, or at least that's the first one. These two have been talking about how difficult, though, that Williams is when you're battling wheel to wheel. And I wonder, firstly, they'll all be sitting down talking about how they managed to run into each other in turn 1. But also, I think the drivers might come back at the team a little bit with we've been telling you about this all year. He's actually a long way down the inside there. Yeah, he's locked both fronts up, but that's the issue that they've been complaining about. They may well say to James Vowles, this is an outcome of a car which is so difficult to race wheel to wheel in traffic. The team, of course, will be less than impressed, having just re-signed both drivers, of course.
Yeah, some frustrated drivers out there. Battles up and down the grid here at the Dutch Grand Prix that ultimately was won by Lando Norris. All eyes now turn, of course, to the Italian Grand Prix. We'll be chatting about that in just a moment.
The famous Temple of Speed, one of sport's great theatres.
Welcome to Monza.
They're wheel to wheel, they're side by side. He's on the grass, Lando Norris. Max Verstappen goes off the road. Sainz trying to go the long way round. There's the contact! For over a century, Monza has meant pure speed.
There's something magical about the sea of red.
This is the Italian Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen wins.
Yes.
What a wonderful place to go motor racing. Let's take a look at the schedule then for the Italian Grand Prix. Next stop is Monza. 4:30 p.m. for your weekend warm-up on Thursday. Then we've got FP1 and FP2 on Friday, 12:10 and 3:40 for all your build-up. Then on to Saturday, FP3 building up at 12:10. Qualifying at the Temple of Speed. The pre-qualifying show at 3:25. Qualifying itself starts at 4 p.m. and the post-qualifying show straight after that battle for pole. On to race day. The pre-race show starts at 10 to 2 for you, a 3 p.m. start for the Italian Grand Prix, and the post-race show with all the analysis straight after the podium. Keep it right here on F1 TV. We have so much for you to enjoy. Scan that QR code, register and enjoy. Cool down room, Jolyon Palmer's analysis looks back at all the big moments from each race weekend. Chasing the Dream following F2, Tech Talk and all the Porsche action as well. Keep it right here on F1 TV. For now, we're going to be looking ahead to the Italian Grand Prix and all that lies ahead in Monza. Zandvoort done and dusted. The Dutch Grand Prix we bid farewell to for the last time. Thank you to Zandvoort, because what a brilliant stage it has been. And as ever, the circus carries on and we roll on to Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. Alex, what are your thoughts ahead of that one?
I think it's going to be a totally different type of race to this one. Monza is going to be a real voyage of discovery in these cars. A towing race or an energy race between the cars. But as ever, it's going to be amazing to see cars around such a historic circuit.
It's going to be fascinating to see how drivers react to this one. Both those who've done well, your likes of Lando Norris, but equally those who've had a frustrating day. Oscar Piastri, we were questioning the McLaren strategy, putting him out on that hard tyre, thinking, is he going to try and go long? But then bringing him in so early, and then bringing him in again. And ultimately, he didn't seem to have the performance on the hard. His teammate did. Do we know why? Can we work that out?
I mean, throwing the car on the hard actually was pretty audacious after the red flag. But the reality is that they were basically floundering because the car didn't have the pace. And there's no combination that they could seem to find that would put Piastri in the same position as Norris. His response to this weekend is going to be really interesting, because he'll have quite a lot of data there on a very similar strategy to Lando Norris to say, hey, why is it that my teammate in the same car could deliver that pace in an electric middle stint and go and win the Grand Prix, and I couldn't do so? But there'll be plenty of other drivers also really crunching the numbers. I would expect them to be in the simulator really trying to work out Monza, because it's going to be challenging.
Not least George Russell, of course, who's vying for a world title against his teammate Kimi Antonelli. But Lando Norris got the better of both of them here in the Netherlands. Let's hear from your race winner.
Well, Lando, congratulations. You had a lot thrown at you, some pre-race rain, then you had the restart from pole, and then you had whether or not you'd pitted for the FESC, and you got there in the end. How satisfying is that?
It was a tough race. It was a tough race just because of some decisions you have to make along the way and the stress that things cause. Not having a great start for whatever reason. So we need to review, of course, some things. To be honest, a lot of yesterday and today as well, the right side of the grid seemed to be better starters than the left for some reason. And this is what we learned from yesterday, and it was clear again today. So we need to understand why. But of course, we needed to do a better job, and I need to review what I could have done better, because that just puts me in a very, very difficult position for the rest of the day. But apart from that, The first stint was not good. The second 2 stints incredibly strong, and I drove a very good race from a stint perspective, from tyre management perspective, which was our weakness yesterday, was our strength today. So very, very pleased that we managed to turn a lot of things around.
Back-to-back wins, back-to-back upgrades. Does it feel like you're back in it?
No, I think if you say that, you're just too short-sighted for the time being. Of course, you know, we look ahead to the end of the season and we want to make sure we're in the best place possible. And in some ways, we are short-sighted too, because we want to just look to the next race. We don't want to look any further than that. But there's no point thinking anything more than just next job is to prepare for Monza and do the best job we can there. So, you know, we have a lot of work to do. I'm not happy with the car. I get that. I get that people are going to go, well, you just won 2 races and you're on pole in 2 races, but I know what my car is. I know where we're strong, where we're weak. I know the job I'm doing. And I know we really need to improve in some places. If I want to repeat that line that we still have a chance for the championship, I can't repeat that until I'm confident in it. And at the minute, we need a little bit more still. So.
All right, well, congrats and still enjoy that win.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
83 points is the gap for Lando Norris. Dare he dream of another world title? For now, they'll be sticking to the here and now, and the work continues for your newest world champion. Let's talk any other business from today, looking ahead to Monza as well. I'm going to give honourable mentions to Nico Hülkenberg. Excellently executed race. Points for Audi in P8. Point for Gasly as well in that upgraded Alpine. P9. A point for Fernando Alonso. And just one moment there, Max Verstappen is leaving the motorhome, which is just behind us in the paddock here. He seems okay. I'd imagine really disappointed, but he's on his way out of here for today. But on to Fernando Alonso, who is P9. What a race he had.
I was excited to talk about Fernando. I had one strategy at the very top of my strategy seat before this one. It was a one-stopper, and Fernando Alonso is the only driver after the red flag who did it and got some points for Aston Martin, which was brilliant. They'll be obviously looking towards Monza to try to validate more the Honda engine upgrade, but after the weekend that they've had, they must be delighted to take home some points at Aston.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, that is it then. That's it from us here in the paddock. Alex, thank you so much to you for all of your expertise and analysis. Thanks to Jolien, thanks to Alex Jakes, to Ariana Bravo running around. We've got Verstappen and Mecky's just leaving behind us here. And Max just being shepherded out. I'm sure many wanting to grab a photograph with him. Not the day for the Dutchman here on home soil, but extending his future with Red Bull. How significant a contract extension through to 2030 will that be? Right, from us here in Zandvoort, that is it. We thank you so much for providing such a wonderful party atmosphere over the last 5-6 years or so. I've no doubt the memories here will live long. But for now, we're going to head to the Italian Grand Prix and Monza. We'll see you there.
Next time in Formula 1.
It's time for a bit of Monza magic. Wheel to wheel, that's side by side. He's on the grass, Lando Norris.
Piastri's just done a move I've never seen before in my life.
Carlos Sainz trying to go the long way round. There's the contact! And the crowd absolutely love it.